Okay, so for this demo, we're nearing the end of my demos here, but I am going to talk about the subtractive cup. So essentially subtracting clay. You can carve with your tool here, your skewer tool. That's probably your best bet for carving rather than your little paper clip. In class, we would probably use a loop tool, but this will do the trick. Or you could stamp. So I made this stamp in my previous demo. It is now bone dry. These were the stamps I made in class. You can tell the difference. Actually, this is the one that's been sitting out the longest, and this is probably finally maybe 2 hours in at that stiff leather hard to where you could probably stamp with this. If it does get to bone dry, that's fine because this seems to be working just fine as I'm stamping away. This one that I made in my third hour has only been sitting out maybe an hour, not ready at all. I can still kind of push on the pedal and it changes the form. And you don't want to stamp with something that is at that state because it will squish your stamp and it won't impress into the cup. So I'll show stamping as well as carving. I already started in my class and I chose to keep with the same texture. So my additive is with adding clay, same thing, the little flowers, just like what I have similar on my stamp. And then the subtractive is my stamp with the exact same texture. So I'm just going to show actually stamping into the clay here. I'm really supporting the inside. This also, so important, has to be at a soft leather hard. What I mean by that is I can still kind of move my walls a little bit. And let me tell you, this used to be at a stiff leather hard and I just covered it in a wet paper towel to get it to that soft leather hard. It's got to be here. Otherwise, if I try to stamp in something that is like this, which I'll do my carving demo on, it's going to maybe break the pot, crack the walls, add stress that doesn't need to be there. It could possibly break your stamp. This is way too hard. You can hear that, me kind of knocking on it. That's a really stiff leather hard. Perfect for carving, not for stamping. Soft leather hard is perfect for stamping, and I'm actually going to probably finish this off here. So I'll go underneath here. I'm supporting the inside. I like when my pedal faces up on each time. I'm also just resting down here. I'm not squishing. And I really press into the clay here. I'm going to kind of rock it around so I'm getting a nice impression. Pull it off. Ooh, that was probably one of my best stamps. Some of my other ones are a little bit softer. But I really pressed hard, and you can feel it and see it on the inside where I've pressed. I kind of like those there, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to keep going around, leaving a space here. Space in between. Ooh. So here's where it gets a little funky. Like I have this stamp and then I have this stamp. So I probably need two stamps here. So it might get a little tight, a little close. I might kind of plan where I want to place each one. So that I create a really nice pattern, and I think that's okay. So I'm going to go for it. Again, rocking it, pushing really hard. You can see me changing the form of the cup or the bowl just a little bit. That's because I'm pressing so hard. Pull off, and I'm going to press this one too before I do my lower ones to make sure that I'm happy with my stamp. And it actually wasn't too tight. It was pretty good spacing all the way around. That doesn't always happen that way, and I get really frustrated when it doesn't. At home, I have one of these design discs that like evenly places everything out. So that's really pretty good as I move my way around. This got a little tight right here, which I don't love, but we're gonna have to roll with it now that it's stamped in. Again, I'm going to press, rock, press, rock. Same thing here. Press, rock. Press, rock. And one last one. Again, this cup was a whole lot faster. I did my work with the stamp. It was a whole lot faster than my additive cup. Now, if you're carving, that's not a whole lot faster. It can kind of rotate it around, and it might need some cleanup areas, but that's really pretty all right for me. So if I come over here too to my carving, because this absolutely works. And I'm just going to continue on with my pattern that I have going starting here. Same thing I drew here. Now, I did not plan out a pattern to carve. I always draw first, and I always have a plan going into it. That helps me not make something that I'm unhappy with, because I've worked it out two-dimensionally. I've planned out how I want my cup to look. I've planned out how I want my bowl to look. I've thought those things through two-dimensionally, so I can just walk over here and be like, all right, this is my plan. I'm going to go for it. And actually, I want to start with a pencil first. And I start with a pencil, so the case factor that I don't like what I've drawn, or I totally mess up and I get a line over there, I can always fix it. I can always erase it. Now, if I've gone too deep, that's not that easy. Draw my Argyle pattern, which I hate this pattern. I hate what's going on here, but I didn't plan it out. I'm also just doing it kind of quick, but I'm just going to continue on. Now, like I said, let's say I didn't like what happened. Usually your rib tool will just kind of, you just rake it along, it should clean up the texture again. So let's say you hated it, and that's why you do it in a pencil first, so it's real light, and then you can go over it. But once you've pressed pretty hard, that becomes more difficult to hide. So again, I'll take my skewer tool, go along my Argyle pattern here, my diamond pattern. There's a lot of burrs and things happening. Those things drive me nuts. Gotta keep a steady hand. And again, it always looks kind of rough until I've worked at it a little bit. I'm gonna pull away just like I did there, because it's nice to see something other than just lines. I'm gonna pull away my texture here. Again, I'm getting a lot of burrs and a lot of like boogers. I can just clean that up. Say I didn't like that texture too, because you can absolutely clean it up. And I showed all this in class. But let's say I didn't like that kind of scraped away texture. I can kind of pull this away and clean that up. And maybe I like that better. You can kind of redefine some of your lines, because some of that hard clay gets in there. So on and so forth. So always have a plan, always draw out your plan. Hopefully that's visible in all of your sketches. Draw with a pencil first. And that way, if you need to erase for whatever reason, that's real simple with a pencil. Sorry, there's hair. You can erase your lines if you don't like it and you're not happy with it, clean it up. And then when you are happy with it, take your skewer tool and carve away. It'd be nice too if this pattern replicated what was going on with your additive pot, but I didn't make that a huge necessity. Hopefully that helps you with your subtractive pot. Hopefully you like what's going on there. I would need to keep working at this. This is my experimental pot, so there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here. Good luck.